geopolitical tensions are causing turmoil at the Venice Biennale. The contemporary art festival had no formal opening ceremony, has no jury, and the Golden Lion Prize won't be awarded for the first time in its history. And it dates back to 1895. The controversy centres on the participation of Israel and Russia.
Blood is Russia's art! Blood is Russia's art!
This performance is not part of the official program of the Venice Biennale. The feminist activist collective Pussy Riot is protesting the reopening of the Russian pavilion, absent from previous editions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Blood is Russia's art!
They are not the only ones who see it as a form of propaganda aimed at whitewashing the war. The European Union is also opposed to this opening. The pavilion features a musical performance involving more than 50 musicians. To avoid sanctions, the artists will perform only during the press preview, and the piece will subsequently be screened outside the pavilion. Still, curator Anastasia Karnieva is grateful the project was given space.
I would like to thank the Biennale for endorsing the idea of having all countries represented here.
The idea was fully supported by Biennale president Pietrangelo Buttafuoco. He says the foundation does not control the national pavilions and simply follows the law.
Thank you.
If the Biennale were to start selecting passports instead of artworks, it would cease to be what it has always been, the place where the world comes together.
È il luogo dove il mondo si incontra.
But that position hasn't put an end to the debate. We should not tolerate the narrative that art is outside of politics, especially when we're talking about countries waging open war, like Russia with Ukraine. The installation at the Ukrainian pavilion follows the journey of the concrete sculpture Origami Deer, evacuated after the Russian offensive, 6,000 kilometers from the Donbass to Venice.
It's a piece who need to escape to survive. As millions of Ukrainians who lost their home and looking for the new home around the world.
The Russian pavilion is not the only focus of controversy. Artists participating in the main exhibition held a peaceful procession for their colleagues killed in Gaza. Outside the Biennale, protests are taking place against the inclusion of the Israeli pavilion in the exhibition. Artist Belu Simeon Fainaru, this year's representative at the Israeli pavilion, feels discriminated against.
I am for free protest, but I don't think it's a right protest that is based on boycott. Like boycott me as an artist, boycott me because I am a Jewish artist, that I have Israeli passport. I can say I have also Romanian passport. I was not boycotted as Romanian.
The artist represented the Romanian pavilion in 2019. With its national pavilions acting as official state-sponsored platforms showcasing contemporary art, the Venice Biennale is this year more than ever entangled in geopolitical tensions.
All right, let's go to Rome now, where I'm joined by journalist Alina Trabattoni, who has just returned from covering the Biennale in Venice. Alina, great to have you on DW News. So has the Biennale ever experienced this kind of upheaval like we're seeing now, with politics overshadowing the art?
The Biennale is no stranger to, conflictual, opposition and demonstrations and issues being flagged very, very vociferously across it. So it's always been a place where art and politics, have collided. But this year, the tension feels especially visible. And this is all in a situation of great geopolitical tension across Europe, of course, because, everyone is very conscious of the ongoing Russia and Ukraine war. and also of the escalating conflict in the Middle East. At least this is what people on the ground have been telling me. And of course, there has been the issue of the 2 million euros of funds that the Biennale has received from the European Union. And the European Union actually, once it had been announced that the Biennale would hold a Russia House, actually withdrew those funds, the funds they had given. And to add it to that is the ongoing tension about the Israeli presence there. And of course, the Iranian delegation was unable to be fully present and operational. So it's been quite intense. That's got to be said. And even though the Biennale is no stranger to such, tension, this year was particularly tense.
It certainly sounds like it, and it doesn't. And of course, you just mentioned it there. It's not just, we'll say, one protest. It's several. And are the protests against the Russian and the Israeli pavilions likely to continue as the art festival or exhibitions continue?
Well, I think it's very likely they will continue, yes, at least according to the artists and also the art aficionados that I've been talking to on the ground. Venice has always been a magnet for protest, as much as for the art itself. And the Biennale is often used as a stage for a broader political pressure to be exerted on governments, on movements, and so forth. And obviously, the Russian pavilion has been especially sensitive since the war in Ukraine. And while the Israeli presence is also likely to, generate trigger demonstrations and protests and remained under scrutiny by activists as tensions across Gaza continue to shape cultural debate. What's interesting is that the protests don't just target the pavilions themselves. They raise a bigger question about the role of cultural institutions in times of war and whether participation can ever be neutral. That debate is likely to stay live throughout the exhibition. And, obviously it's going to carry on until the 22nd of November.
Yeah, so plenty of time ahead. And I mean, obviously, the Biennale is not the first festival or gathering of artists that has dealt with that issue of politics and art being discussed in great detail and obviously sparking controversy and protests. Let's talk now about the art itself, because there's been also some issues there. Could you tell us more?
Well, first and foremost, it's been a very emotionally charged edition because, the curator that was appointed to oversee the Biennale died just a few days after the announcement of, a very, a last, immediate a health issue tied to cancer. She died just aged 57 in 2025 in May last year after a very fast-moving and unexpectedly fast-moving illness. She built a major reputation through Raw Material Company in Dakar, which is very well known, and later in Cape Town. And her curatorial vision for In Minor Please was deeply shaped by ideas of care, of listening, and the quieter forces that shape society. Her team completed the exhibition in line with that vision, which was wonderful, so that the visitors now see that both as a tribute and a continuation of her work. It gives the whole Biennale a very personal sense of loss, but also of artistic continuity. And obviously, this very much shaped and overlaid over all the works and pavilions across the board.
Well, tell us actually a little bit about the national pavilions. Which ones are making headlines? And I'm not saying headlines in the protest sense, but other types of headlines, we'll say.
Yes. Well, Austria is one of the most talked about pavilions, with Florentina Holzinger's Sea World Venice creating a lot of attention, drawing a lot of attention for its physical theatrical intensity. And of course, there's also the Belgian pavilion by Miet Warlop. It's also getting a strong reaction for its playful but tightly controlled performance language. Beyond that, there's debut pavilions from Guinea, from Qatar, Vietnam as well are drawing interest because they expand the Biennale's the Biennale's geopolitical map. Greece and Denmark are also standing out for work that speaks to climate, identity, and pressure on the public sphere. It's a very international field this year, and that mix of first-time presences and bold statements is part of what makes it so compelling. But I've also got to, draw a bit of attention to some of the out of official lineup events. Marina Abramovic has a sideline event, which is absolutely magnificent and a must-see. And there's also an artistic event by Marinella called the Human Safety Net, which is wonderful. It's a collective of art across the world, drawing on, extreme margins of society. And it's in the square of San Marco and definitely must be seen at the Assicurazioni Generali headquarters.
Alina, we're going to have to leave it there, but that was really great to get that update from you and that analysis as well of what's going on at the Venice Biennale. Journalist Alina Trabattoni joining us today from Rome. Thanks so much.